Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello, and welcome back to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Today, you are in for a treat because you are going to get to meet Lucia Oliveira, who is a sleep coach and a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator. In fact, we were in the same cohort. But before we dive into that conversation, I promised you that I would bring you a client each week to share about their experiences working with me. So this week, I have Monica Baker on the podcast, sharing her experience about working with me in the Heal to the Yes program. Monica is a real estate agent in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm going to let her take it from here. Let's listen.
Hi, I'm Monica. I am a real estate agent in Nashville, Tennessee, and I booked a session with Brenda because I was feeling very stuck. I was feeling held back and kind of in a moment of paralysis, and I couldn't put my finger on why. So I got on the call with Brenda, and immediately she was able to find spots in my energy that were holding me back and keeping me from really reaching the potential that I was shooting for. And it was really amazing because these are parts of my self, parts of my energy that I just thought were normal. I just thought it's who I was. And she was able to help me see that these were things that I didn't have to keep. I didn't have to keep experiencing these things. I didn't have to keep the paralysis. I was able to remove this energetic block and actually move forward with some of my goals. And Brenda is so loving, so gracious, so open, but also such a powerful healer. She can find the kinks in your energy system and then help you actually breathe through them, remove those energetic blocks, and keep moving forward with your life. So I cannot recommend a session with Brenda enough.
Monica is a real estate agent in Nashville, Tennessee, and she's also a breathwork facilitator. You can follow her on Instagram at the_Monica Baker, the_Monica Baker, MONICABAKER. And she has a free gift for you, a free guide called How to Stop Effing Up Your Sales in 2023. And you can get that by going to her website at monicajbaker.com. My client experiences are really important to me. And I'm just so grateful to be working with high achievers, high performers, sensitive and successful men and women as they navigate to their yes-filled lives. There are 3 ways that you can work with me. My one-on-one program is called Heal to the Yes, and I offer single appointments, a package of 2, along with a package that lasts 3 months and a 6-month package. Yes Academy is my group immersive experience. I believe so fully in the power of breathwork that I offer one breathwork session for every single content call. And the results have been absolutely incredible. My participants are blown away, and I'm so inspired by watching their growth. Yes Academy is my 6-month program designed to help you find your yes filled life. And the third way that you can work with me is in person at my Heal Yes Reiki retreat. The next Heal Yes retreat is going to be held on August 28th through September 4th in beautiful Rockaway Beach, Oregon, on the northern Oregon coast. I will put links to all three of the ways that you can work with me in the show notes. And I just am so excited about also offering Find Your Yes discovery calls, where we can find out what is the best fit for you, what would make the most sense for you right now, and what would really fit your need. So I'll put the link to book a Find Your Yes discovery call in the show notes as well. And I'd love to connect with you there because we get to Zoom. I get to a chance to talk to you, and you can ask me anything you want. All right, so let's dive into the content for today. Lucia Oliveira is a sleep coach and breathwork facilitator who has a passion for helping moms find their well-being while navigating motherhood. With years of experience in studying and researching the importance of sleep and breathwork, Lucia has helped numerous moms improve their family's sleep and reduce stress through breathwork techniques. As a mother herself, Lucia understands the challenges that come with balancing the demands of motherhoods and personal well being. With the holistic and personalized approach, she is dedicated to supporting other moms on their wellness journey by providing tailored sleep coaching and breathwork guidance. Her focus is on promoting sustainable habits and long term health so that her clients can enjoy a happier, healthier life for themselves and their families. Whether you're a new mom struggling to get enough sleep, or a seasoned parent looking to prioritize self care, Lucia is here to help. With her expertise in sleep and breathwork, she can help you achieve your wellness goals and create a more balanced and fulfilling life. Let's dive into this conversation. Hi, Lucia. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Brenda, it's so good to see you and be here today with you. I'm so excited about our conversation together.
Oh my goodness, me too. I just love seeing you, and I love the work that you do in the world. And I've gotten to experience some of it firsthand because we came through a breathwork facilitator program at the same time. And you let me practice on you. and, and I got to experience your magic. And I'm just so grateful for you.
Yeah, same. I was so excited to see you today. I know it's been a few weeks since we last connected. And I know when we went through our facilitator training to become breathwork facilitators, we definitely spent some really special moments. One that I will never forget. So that will be forever engraved in my heart until the end of time. So
You and me both. It was a pivotal moment for me, like life-changing pivotal moment.
yeah,
So
totally an aha moment for sure. So I'm so glad that we got to share that together.
yeah, me too. So I know all about you and your magic, but our listeners don't. Can you give our listeners a little taste of who you are and the work that you do in the world?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Lucia Oliveira. I'm the founder of Luminous by Lucia. I work with moms and women on really the three pillars that I think are crucial for the well-being of moms and women in general through sleep, body, which is movement of the body, and the soul being breath work. Being a first-time mom to almost a 4-year-old now, it's definitely those three pillars that I really hold on to really make sure that I feel grounded, connected, present. And so I founded Luminous by Lucia to really be an advocate and really support moms that are going through, either challenges with sleep or being a mom, and really tapping into their body, their soul, just their well-being. So I'm excited about the work that I do. I love what I do, absolutely love it. And I just love connecting with other women and sharing my passion and making sure that they feel very grounded and connected with their body, their mind, their soul, and obviously their kids if they're moms.
Mm, that's beautiful. And, I just want to really pull forward the idea that we're both breathwork facilitators, but the work that we do in the world is not unrelated, but it's also not that similar. And so we're able to bring breathwork to different places
Yeah.
in the population. And I just love that there's so much latitude in the practice of breathwork to be incorporated in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, totally. And I found this amazing connection with just taking the sleep component and the soul, the breath work. Just having gone through postpartum 3 years ago with my son, and just doing a lot of research and just how, with my son being not a great sleeper, right? And being a first time and all the challenges that come with that, I recognize that babies feel your energy. They feel the mom's energy. And if you're feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, your baby's going to feel that. So if we're able to get the mom feeling more grounded and taking them down a few notches, right, and really allowing them to feel more present and tuning into what the baby's trying to communicate, I think their reaction of how they're going to interact with the baby is going to be so different from being very responsive immediately. If they hear a cry or whatever, like it allows the mom to really tap into their breath, right? Feeling more connected so that they can respond to the baby in a more effective, in a positive way as well, too. So I found that really great connection. I wish I had those tools when I was going through postpartum myself. It would have saved me so many hours of just feeling so overwhelmed and anxious and all the other stuff that comes with motherhood in the beginning.
Yes, indeed. So there's a couple things that I want to unpack. One is the sleep piece, which I'd like to come back to that in just a minute. In fact, I was telling you before we hit record that I have some questions that are coming from a close friend of mine around sleep. And then the second thing is that I'd like to dig into first is the idea that our babies, whether they're infants or 21-year-olds, sense and feel our energy. And I want our listeners to know that there's no judgment coming from Lucia or from me because we've both been there. We've learned this and we know what we know, which is why we do what we do. And so there's no guilt or judgment coming when we say we have something that can help you so that your baby can relax.
Yeah,
That you're
absolutely.
relaxed.
Yeah.
So do you have, and I know you do, do you have something really tangible that a mom who's feeling anxious, stressed, or just worked up that that mom could do right now to make herself and then vicariously her baby feel just a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, one would be breath work, like just allowing ourselves to catch our breath and just bringing breath awareness to how we're breathing in that moment. Because if we're feeling agitated, our breath is going to be completely out of whack. And if we're able to bring awareness to just allowing yourself to notice what's, what's happening in your body, what's happening in your mind, just the awareness itself can really help tap into what's in that moment. I think that just incorporating breath work itself, and that's why I'm such a big believer, and so are you, Brenda. I think that is one of the biggest things that a mom can do right now is just to take a deep breath and notice the breath. That will totally shift your energy almost immediately. So that would be one thing. The other thing is really if you are feeling that you're in a place where you're feeling overwhelmed or feeling sleep deprived, whatever emotions are coming up, that it's okay to ask for help. For me, I wish I had raised my hand sooner and asked for help. So if you're feeling in a good place and have that support, I think that can really change the dynamic between you and your child with the parent who is just asking for help. So those would be like the two things that they can do right now. If they're feeling a little stressed or overwhelmed, it's okay to ask for help.
Yes, I love both of that. And when you're talking about breath awareness, For me, I find that the moment I start to pay attention to my breath, usually the first thing I realize is I'm chest breathing. In other words, I'm only breathing with the upper quadrant of my lungs. And as soon as I pay attention to the breath, I realize, oh, I've got all of this lung that extends down into my torso. And my second breath is deeper than that first one. And it's almost involuntary that makes me want to take that
Yeah.
more expansive breath. Do you find that that's pretty typical?
Yeah, 100%. And even like what you just did, like even making a sound at the end, like there's something about the vibration of your voice, of an ah at the end or a sigh can really just relax you a little bit more. So I 100% agree with what you're saying, that just noticing that first breath, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, my breath is very chesty right now. And then you bring that awareness a little bit more deeper and you're able to really tap into a more deeper, well-connected breath into your body. So I 100% agree with you on that.
It's so good, so easy, and it's accessible, and it's free. We
Yeah.
all can breathe.
Yeah, it's our life force, and sometimes we just hold our breath the whole time when we're feeling stressed and it's just kind of releasing the breath and just allow ourselves to come back to that natural way of breathing and bringing awareness to it for sure.
Yeah. And, I just don't think there's much more in life that's more stressful than raising kids, especially when they're small, because we're regulating our own emotions. We're trying to co-regulate their emotions. And it often leaves new parents, moms and dads, with not a lot of time to do their own self-regulation practices, especially if their kids aren't sleeping. And so I have some questions about sleep. Some of them are just anecdotal from my own experience, and some of them are coming from my friend. So I noticed when I was raising my daughter, who's now 21, that there would be cycles where several months would go by and sleep would be really accessible and kind of easy. And then for no apparent reason, it would stop. And I mean, stop abruptly. Like all of a sudden, she wouldn't stay in her bed. She wouldn't stay in her room. She was, up early and up late and seemed to not need as much sleep. And then it would shift again several months later and she'd sleep more. Is that pretty typical for kids?
Yeah, I would definitely say it is. I think with older kids, as they're younger, like infants and moving into toddlers, there are milestones that they start to hit. If they start to walk, crawling, eating solids now, any of those milestones, that can definitely impact their sleep. Even with older kids, with toddlers like myself, I have a toddler and he knows what to do, but sometimes he likes to push a little bit of my buttons per se, in the sense of pushing those boundaries. And for me, as a parent of an older child, not older, but you know what I mean,
Mhm.
it's really about sticking and maintaining and setting really healthy habits and also boundaries with him, right? So that's what I've noticed, a shift, right? With younger kids, it's also being consistent, but it's also an understanding that babies go through what we call sleep regressions. And with sleep regressions, there are things that, if the baby's experiencing, like I mentioned earlier, like solids are introduced, they're starting to crawl, they're starting to walk, teething is a big one. Those are definitely going to impact sleep. So it's definitely, sleep isn't linear. There's going to be bumps in the roads, but what a parent can do is to stay consistent with an infant, but also with a toddler, and maintaining those boundaries with them.
I love that. Do you feel like the approach to sleep changes, or is the consistency over the long haul what creates the ability for good sleep to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it starts at an early age. Setting healthy sleep habits from the beginning, like setting up a bedtime routine with newborns, infants, making sure that they're in a really good, they're getting enough sleep during the day as well as at night, right? Really cultivating a really healthy sleep environment for them is key, right? And even if your babies, they're not great sleepers, and you know what, you have a toddler or preschooler that isn't sleeping, you can make those changes. It's going to take some time, like anything else, right? Because it's a new way that they're it's like a new way for them to sleep. But I do find that it is important to set a really solid foundation from an early age, because that's going to really help them thrive when they get older as well. So it is important to, to really set those foundations from an early age, if I'm being honest with you. And it does change. Yeah. I mean, babies' needs in terms of how much they're sleeping during the day and how much at night, it's going to change as they get older. But those primary, like foundational pieces, right, are always going to be there, regardless, if they transition from a 3 nap to a 2 nap. Like, of course, there's going to be changes that are going to happen along the way, but you're going to still have that foundation that when you have a baby or a child that is able to sleep independently, which means they don't need to be rocked or fed to sleep in order to fall asleep. Those are things that your child will automatically, it kind of rolls over. They know what to do, right? It's your job to implement and make sure that you follow through with them as well. So
I love that. And so by follow through, let's say that the child is older. Let's say that late toddler, early preschool age 4, which seems to be a time when sleep really shifts for people. At least the moms that I talk to, and I remember that from my own daughter. When we talk about follow through, what might that look like? What is follow through?
yeah, follow through means, like, for example, if your child is used to coming into your bed, for example, in the middle of the night, it's really, if that's something that you want to change, is really following through on staying consistent on how you respond to them in the middle of the night when they wake up. I know that it is very challenging when your child comes into your bedroom at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And the easy way out is to just say, you know what, come on into my bed, right? That reinforces that behavior for it to happen every night. So as a parent, if we want to change that, right, if that's something that you're looking to change now, if this works for you, I want to be very clear. If it's something that works for the parent, that they do enjoy their kid coming into bed, then for sure continue doing what you're doing. But if you're looking to change that, you have to implement that boundary. So that means when your child comes in to your bed and in the middle of the night, it's walking them back to their bed and reinforcing them that they stay in bed until, there's like this okay to wake up clock, right? This light turns on when it's time for you to get out of bed, or permission to get out of bed. So there's so many things that you can do, but you have to implement that. Reinforcing it, following through what is expected of them every night when they go to bed.
This is amazing. And this okay to wake up clock, tell me more.
Oh yeah, this is a game changer. So the okay to wake up clock is a little clock. I personally use the Hatch. It's one of my favorites. And what ends up happening, I haven't used it yet with my son because we're not there yet. He's still not sleeping in a toddler bed because there's really no need for him to transition yet because he's not climbing out of bed. He's still within the crib requirements. So I plan on keeping him in his crib until he starts showing other signs. But anyways, with other families that I've support with toddlers and preschoolers, there's so the Hatch has a little light and you can control it and program it on your phone that at a certain time, at that time, let's say it's, your child is okay to get out of bed at like 6:30, for example, in the morning, then a light will turn on the Hatch that tells your child the light is whatever color it is. Like it could be blue, red, it could even be the favorite color of your child's favorite color. And when that light turns on, that gives them permission to get out of bed. So that's what an okay to wake up clock is. It's pretty cool. And it's also, you can play a little game with your child too. Like, you got to wait until that light turns whatever, green or blue, whatever their color is, that allows them then to get out of bed.
Wow, that is amazing.
I know, the little things that we do with our kids and games and to get their buy-in and really get them excited around bedtime. It doesn't have to be a time that is very stressful. And I will say, Brenda, if I can say this, I remember when I was, relatively new, a new parent, a new mom, my baby was only a few months old. And I remember getting sweaty palms when bedtime came around because My anxiety would go through the roof just knowing like what kind of night would I get? He was waking up so many times during the night. And so now like I'm in such a great place that I want parents to know that it is possible. Regardless of what age they're at, you can make those changes right now to get your child sleeping better. And when they're sleeping better, that means the whole family is sleeping better. You as a mom, everyone's sleeping better. So it is so important that everyone's feeling fully rested and getting that sleep that they need every night.
This is so good. So you mentioned that your son is still in the toddler bed
Or in the crib.
and in the
In a crib.
crib, in the crib.
Mhm.
A family that I know has 2 in toddler beds. And the challenge has been the kids don't want to stay in their toddler beds and they don't want to stay in their room. And so it's been very hands-on, and the parents are staying with the kids inside their room, trying to get them to stay in bed, patting backs and reading books and offering all kind of kindnesses, but it's taking 3 to 4 hours in the evening, and the family's exhausted, and they don't see an end at sight. They don't know what to do next.
Mhm.
What could you offer a family that is trying to do all the things and they're not getting traction?
Yeah, so one is going back to having big communication with older kids. Like you're naming 4-year-olds, preschoolers, toddlers is really about communicating with your child and really talking to them what's expected of them at night, right? They're meant to stay in bed unless they need something, they can call out a parent, but their job, right, or their goal is to stay in their bed at night. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but there are so many things that you can do in order to really get your child's buy-in, but also excited for bedtime. And that could look like allowing them to pick their own PJs, right? Whatever they want to wear to bed. Allowing them to pick, like, let's say if you decided, okay, we're going to read 3 books, allowing them to pick those 3 books that you're going to read and really sticking to it. If they ask for another book, you just say, I know that you want to read another book. Tomorrow we'll get to read that one because we've read already 3. So really sticking to those boundaries that we talked about, right? Really getting them excited about bed. But then at the beginning, I've worked with so many families with older kids, and if they're used to falling asleep with a parent in the room, it's time to really implement what I call the chair method. It's a method that I use with older kids where the parent is in the room until the child falls asleep, and then they start to gradually move the chair further away from the bed until they're completely out of the room. So that's something that you have to implement, or at least that's one of the methods that I use in order for the child to then get used to falling asleep by themselves without the parent being in the room. But it's going to take some time. Some of these families that I've supported with older kids, it takes sometimes 3 weeks, to be quite honest with you, to see a change. But that means you have to be consistent, right? Having a bedtime routine, even doing little games with them, right? If they're able to stay in their room and not get out of their room, maybe if 3 days in a row they do that, they get a little prize in the morning or they get a special treat, right? Like really finding fun ways to really get your child excited about it. So there's so many games that I implement with little kids on really getting them excited about staying in bed. But those are just foundational things that I've just shared that parents can definitely do right now with older kids to get them to sleep in their own room by themselves.
Oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I can almost hear the notepads.
Taking tons of notes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
totally,
Exactly.
totally. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And it's so fun. And I love the way that you make it fun based and it's game based and it's not punitive. And I
Yes.
think that that's really important. And I just want to highlight that.
Yeah, for sure. We want our kids to be really excited about bedtime. I don't want them to be dreading bedtime, and I neither do I want the parents to feel that way. It's an exciting time that they get to spend with their kids, right? With bath time, reading books. These are really special times. And if I'm being honest, out of the whole day, that is definitely my favorite moment, that I get to spend that time with Gabriel. That's my son, to do these little things. I give him a bath, I read him a book, we snuggle, and then I put him down in his crib, and it's a very special time. And I want parents to enjoy those moments, right? Versus feeling stressed about it, that they're going to get another sleepless night. And the biggest thing is, if whatever they're doing is working for their family, like they don't mind being in the room and spending hours for their child to fall asleep, then continue doing that, right? That's what I tell a lot of families. In order for you to see changes, or for something to change, there has to be a change that has to be made, right? So going back to what you said, if the parent is in the room with their child for 3 hours to help them fall asleep, nothing's going to really change until they make the decision that they want to change that, and really implementing things to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. So I was a single parent for the bulk of my daughter's life, and I didn't ever trade off bedtime. It was always my night for bedtime, because that was our reality. My sister's family, she and her husband take turns, and a lot of my girlfriends, she and their partners take turns. So like one night it's this parent's night to put to bed, and the next night it's the other parent's night to put to bed. How does that kind of role sharing work with the consistency that a kid needs?
Yeah, the parents have to be, or partners have to be, on the same page. They have to respond in the same manner, right? Like, for example, if the child says, "Oh, I want to read another book," but you've read already 3 books, the partner or whoever's doing bedtime needs to stick with that, right? And the child needs to get the same message or expect the same thing every night, regardless of who's doing bedtime. And it could be very different, right? So if one parent prefers to do lullabies, for example, and the other parent prefers to read books, that's totally fine. The end result is that you have to be really set those boundaries. And I know I keep talking about boundaries, but I can't stress enough how boundaries are so important at any point in our life, right? As adults, with family, with friends, but with our kids, we have to establish those boundaries as well with when it comes to things like bedtime. So what matters is that the person is being consistent, and the response and the message is always the same, regardless of who's taking over during bedtime.
I love this answer. And, I was a teacher for 26 years, and what you're saying holds true. So I was a specialist, which means that I taught all of the kids that were in the building. I didn't have a classroom of my own. I had them all. And it didn't matter what the rules in the classroom were. They knew what my rules in my classroom were. And so, it was very simple. We treat each other with kindness and respect, and we accept and include each other, and we have safe bodies. Those were the 3 expectations. And they knew as soon as they walked in that those were the 3 things, and they could articulate them. We called them the ABCs.
I love it.
And it didn't matter what they were being told in other classrooms by other teachers, even substitutes or principals. They knew that those were the rules inside my classroom. And so for the parent out there that's thinking, "Oh, but I'm scared to try the lullaby because my partner loves the book," I just want to reinforce what Lucia said, which is you can do it your own way as long as the overarching message is the same.
Exactly. And it's like, even using the example of the middle of the night wake ups where they're coming into your room for those older kids. Let's say if it was the parent, I'll use examples, like the mom does bedtime. And then if the child is waking up in the middle of the night, the mom, does what she needs to do in order to bring the child back to bed. Same goes for the dad, right? Like the dad needs to respond the same manner as the mom. For example, like the dad shouldn't allow the child to go into bed after a few days and mom has walked the child back to bed, because then the child gets mixed messages, right? So even though his approach might be a little different in the sense of how he's walking the child back or what he's saying to the child, the response and the reaction is the same, right? He's walking the child back to the room. Both parents are doing the same thing. So, it is important that regardless of how you do it, that the end result is still the same.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And when you were talking about boundaries are kind of my jam. I love to talk about boundaries because I feel like boundaries allow people into our lives. Like we get to have richer, more deep relationships when we have appropriate and healthy boundaries. And it makes sense to me that these same kind of boundaries would enable us to have a deeper, richer, more meaningful relationship with our kids at bedtime too. And I hear a lot of exchanges, let's call them, with parents, that I see in the airports or parents in the mall or different things. And one of the things that seems to make a lot of parents' blood run cold is fear of telling their child no and upsetting them.
Yeah.
And I definitely have a perspective around this, having been in education for as long as I was. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, that's such a great question, Brenda. So, a lot of times as parents, like our child needs to hear the word no, even though it might be very challenging for us, right? It's hard for us to say no to our child because we are worried about their reaction and of how they're going to take it. And to be honest with you, it's more like the child has to receive that message, but I think it's how us as parents feel super uncomfortable. For example, my 3-year-old the other day had a complete meltdown because I said no to, I can't even recall what it was. And in the moment, the easy way for me, if I really wanted to shut down the meltdown or the crying, would be to give in to what he wanted, right? But I knew it wasn't the right thing to do. Even though it was very hard for me in the moment to hear this meltdown that went on for like maybe 5 minutes, but he has to understand that a no is what I think is best for him in that moment, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes a lot of parents, because they don't want to have or experience or want to deal sometimes with the tantrums, the outbursts or the reaction of our kids, that we're quickly, as soon as they start having a tantrum, we're like, okay, here you go. Here's the iPad, or here's whatever they've been wanting. And so it's more on the parent than it is for the child. Our kids need to have their feelings. They need to voice, they need to feel. We as adults hear the word no all the time, and it is upsetting, right? It is upsetting when we wanted something, we didn't get it, but it's okay. We have to learn from those, and we're setting a stepping stone for our kids as they get older to understand that no is part of life. It can't always be yeses, right? And for us to sometimes hear no's and no's and no's, it's going to lead at some point to a yes, right? It's going to redirect us to where we're supposed to be. And so if we're able to teach our kids this from an early age, it's such a gift that we're giving them. But I feel that a lot of parents give in because they don't necessarily want to deal with how they're feeling, how their body gets triggered. I know how my body feels when my son has one of those tantrums. Like I could literally feel my body tense. And for me, I have to listen to my body, recognize that, but also understand that this is what's best for my child in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I love everything that you said. And I'd love to offer one more perspective, which is this, that if we don't teach our children how to hear a no and respond appropriately to the no, our children can become the boundary violators because they don't hear no coming from other people, whether it's adults or their friends. And so learning to hear and accept a no is really an important part of development.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, with what you're saying, Brenda. I mean, that is so true with really establishing those boundaries from an early age, and, it is very crucial for our kids to hear that, sometimes on a daily basis, like not just because you feel like it, right? But in the moment when your child wants something that they can have, like, oh, I want cookies before dinner, saying, hey, I know that you really want those cookies and you can have one after dinner, but you have to have dinner first before you have those cookies. And I know for a fact that my son is gonna have one of those tantrums, but that's okay. You're setting those boundaries up so that there is some respect established as well. But also, like, that's what's best for your child in that moment. So
Right. Right. In my house, it was always, and it still is, it was always like climbing up the drawers to sit on the counter, to stand on top of it, to open up something in a high cupboard door. And
yeah,
I was always like, "Oh my goodness, please stop climbing on the counter." Not because I think that the counter's going to get hurt, because
right.
I don't want you to be hurt. And so that was the ongoing thing in our house.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's important, like you really set, like you put a firm boundary that I don't want you to be climbing up on the countertop because you can hurt yourself. Like you're keeping your child safe. And, kids sometimes, when they're younger, they don't realize sometimes the danger that they're in, right? Like climbing up the countertop or going in the kitchen and taking a knife, for example. You know what I mean? Like they don't understand that. And so it is our job as parents to keep them safe. Um,
Mhm.
so it is important, even though it might suck in the moment that they're going to have a complete meltdown. It's part of the journey. It's part of motherhood, parenthood, whatever you like to call it. So yeah.
It is. I love this conversation, and I think it's going to be so useful to listeners with children of all ages. And I don't want to forget to give you an opportunity to tell us where people can connect with you and find you.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. So there are two places that people can connect with me. On Instagram, I'm very much active there at Luminous by Lucia. And then on my website, which is luminousbylucia.com, I work with many families of all ages. If they're looking for sleep support, I do offer one-on-one sleep support for 3 weeks. That's practically what I feel like is needed for someone who isn't sleeping independently or having that hard time where they're spending a few hours before bedtime to get their child sleeping. So my sleep programs are really designed to really get your whole family sleeping better and really designed to be in a way very successful at the end.
I love that. And Lucia is Lucia when you're
Mhm.
looking for Luminous by
By
Lucia.
Lucia.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just curious, how you came to find this as your calling. And I'm asking from the lens of, you have found the yes in your life. You've given yourself permission to get curious, to try new things. And would you be willing to share a little bit more about your origin story?
Yeah. So, if you were to tell me that I would be a certified sleep coach and a breathwork facilitator, like 3 years ago, I'd be like, "What are you crazy? Like, there's no way." I had a different business, a business that I felt I would be doing until the end of time. I owned a fitness studio that, of course, with COVID, a lot of things changed for me in the sense where I ended up having to close a studio that was open for almost 7 years. So that was a really challenging point in my life. And I felt like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? And at the time, while I was going through this transition, I became a mom. And I was not prepared for postpartum. I mean, I thought I was ready to give birth and went to birthing classes and got really educated, but I definitely was not ready for postpartum. And I think no matter how many books you read, nothing really gets you prepared for it until you're really in it. And shortly after I became a mom, I kind of felt a huge shift in my life in the sense where I started to feel a little bit lost in my own identity. I didn't know. I now was like Gabriel's mom. I was not sleeping well. I from that I experienced postpartum depression and anxiety, and I think it all stemmed down from being sleep deprived. My son was waking up every 2 to 3 hours until one point I just couldn't take it anymore. I felt not something needed to change, because otherwise I wouldn't know where I would be right now.
Mhm.
And I was like, I was very determined. I was like, I definitely want to get my child sleeping. I don't want to do the cry it out method. It didn't align with my parenting style. So I did a lot of research, read tons of books on sleep and really educating myself around infant sleep. And I did a lot of test, error, trial and errors. And finally, I finally got my child sleeping through the night. Naps were great. And it took a lot of dedication. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that no parent should go through. It shouldn't be like their title of being sleep deprived for 4 or 5 years into being parents. Like you can start to make those changes at an early age. And so I noticed that, or not noticed, but I did my research and I realized that there were sleep coaches out there. And I'm like, how did I not know about sleep coaches? Like, oh my gosh, I would have totally paid someone to help me navigate through my kids' sleep journey because I wouldn't have to go through all this trial and errors and reading tons of books, especially when you're sleep deprived. Who has time to read books, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm totally gonna dive into becoming a certified sleep coach because I really, really want to help other families not go through what I went through and really establish those healthy sleep habits from an early age, regardless if it's infant, newborn, or toddlers, preschoolers. And so I became certified. So my son, to be honest with you, was my inspiration for becoming a sleep coach. And he is my biggest teacher. He's taught me
Mm.
so many things and he continues to teach me a lot of things that I didn't know about myself. And here I am. I now am supporting families and getting their family sleeping better. So that's my little story in a nutshell.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
sharing that with us. You know,
Yeah.
I work with people who are giving themselves or maybe considering giving themselves permission to step into their full-bodied yes, the thing that just lights them up. What do you think is something you either did or did not do that led to your yes-filled life?
I would say listen to my fears. I feel that I'm aware that my fears are there, right? But I use that as ammunition, as a green light to go faster. Like if I'm,
Mm.
it's like green means go. If there's fear, that's a green light and giving me permission to move forward with. And I feel that sometimes fear can really paralyze people from moving forward into living the life that they want, that they desire. And so for me, it's really not allowing fear to be in the driver's seat.
I really love that. And so when I hear you say fear means green and that means move forward, I'm thinking that the lack of fear might mean either it's not aligned enough for you to even have an emotional response around it. Is that kind of
Yeah,
what you're saying?
that's right. That's right. It's like when we experience fear, it's like we're dreaming big. We're dreaming outside or we're really tapping into something bigger. And sometimes we're scared of what's on the other side, right? And I think that's what kind of prevents us from moving forward. I feel like even with my own life experience, I could have just stopped at the moment that I got my child sleeping better. And I got this huge desire to help moms. And there was a fear of like, well, who am I to help kids or who am I to help families? Like, that imposter syndrome or like, am I going to be good enough? Can I really help people? And that started to fuel me. And I'm like, yes, I can. Like, thank you for being here. I love that you are trying to protect me, but I know that this is my calling and I just decided to take that leap. So had I had I fallen into the trap of listening to that inner dialogue of who am I to help families, I think that would have stopped me from moving forward.
Mm, I really love that. And I was reflecting as you were talking on my own process. And you're right. There is something about needing to lean into the fear. And I don't think I've ever done something that really mattered without fear.
Mhm.
There was never an absence of fear that gave me the permission to go forward.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So that's my little thing for you.
I love it. So I have just some fun questions just as we start to wrap up here. The first is, what is in your morning mug?
What's in my morning mug? Super greens, superfoods, and of course my cup of coffee.
Oof, sounds fantastic.
Definitely.
Oh,
I mean, the superfoods, I mean, I know they're good for me and I continue to take them, but my coffee is a non-negotiable.
oh, same.
Yeah,
Yeah, the coffee is like that's yeah,
so
it
needed.
is so needed. It's like the most essential thing. In fact, when I was moving last week, the thing that was overarching in my mind was not where am I going to sleep or where am I going to eat, but where am I going to get coffee?
And you're like, oh, I better know where that box is with my coffee machine in there, right? Like you were probably looking for that box to make sure it was like top priority when you were unpacking, right?
Exactly, exactly. And my new place is across the street from Starbucks. So it's nice.
So good.
My next question is there a song that every time you hear it, it just lights you up and you think, I can do anything?
Oh, yes. And I love this question because I am a music junkie. I love rock and roll. I love music. Music is my life. It lights me up. But recently I came across this song that just hit me in such a deep way. It's probably been out for a while, but I just came across it recently. It is Wings by Birdie. And that song is just pure magic. So if you haven't checked
Oh,
it out, you have to listen to it.
oh, I'm going to go check it out right
So,
as soon as we get off.
so good. It's that type of song that on a beautiful summer day, if you don't have a convertible, I just put my windows down, sunroof, and go through one of my favorite places to get to work. And I have that song blasting, and it just makes me feel so alive and so present. So that is definitely one of my favorite songs right now.
Wings by Purdy. Okay. I'll check it out.
Yeah,
Who
let me
ins
know when you do.
I will. I will text you.
Yeah.
Who inspires you?
My dad.
Mm,
My dad is my biggest role model, biggest inspiration in life. So definitely my father.
I love that. Is there a podcast you're enjoying or maybe an audiobook?
So podcast, I was never a big podcast listener until about a year and a half ago. And I think, Brenda, you totally know where I'm going to say. But the Kathy Heller podcast show has been one of my favorites. I just love the conversations that she has with people. So that is definitely one of my top podcasts that I'm listening to right now.
She's a great podcaster.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
So are
Yeah.
you. So are
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you. If you ever find yourself in a funk and you need to flip the switch so that you can get back in the groove, finding that yes, finding the joy, what do you do to flip that switch?
Movement of the body,
Mm,
whatever that looks like. If it's me hopping on the treadmill, going outside, doing a workout, working out is definitely one of the most grounding practices that I have every day.
mm,
So just moving my body is a way to kind of get out of the funk, get into my body, and after a workout, I feel absolutely amazing.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Lucia, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation, Brenda. And thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your podcast and sharing my story with your listeners. So thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Here are the takeaways. Number one, babies and kids feel your emotions, including your stress. If you feel overwhelmed, so will your child. The better you take care of yourself as a mom, the more you can respond to your child in a positive and effective way. Taking the time to regulate how you feel is the least selfish thing you can do as a mom. Number two, breath work. Even simple breath awareness, paying attention to your breath, can be very helpful. Just the awareness itself can allow you to calm down, get present, and reduce the stress in your body. It shifts your energy almost immediately. The vibration of your voice with an ah or a sigh can help you relax a little more. Number 3, if you're feeling overwhelmed, sleep deprived, sad, depressed, or stressed, it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's vitally important. You don't have to do this alone. Number 4, boundaries and consistency are an essential part of developing good sleep habits for your child. Sleep isn't linear in children, and some milestones may cause sleep regressions. But developing consistency and creating a predictable sleep routine will help you and your child in creating good sleep habits. Number 5, setting a sleep foundation at an early age is ideal, but it's never too late to begin to set those foundations. Consistency is key, and following through on the boundaries you've set is vitally important. Number 6, follow through on boundaries might look like staying consistent in how you respond to your child. Lucia's example was a child that comes into your room in the middle of the night. Being consistent in how you respond will be very important in developing a successful routine. There isn't a right way. If you enjoy your child climbing into your bed, that's fine. But if you want something different, being consistent is a key to your success. Number 7, the Okay to Wake Up clock by Hatch is the clock that Lucia mentioned, and I've included a link in the show notes. This is an affiliate link, and I might receive financial compensation as a result of your purchase. But this clock helps your child know when it's time and okay for them to wake up. The better your child sleeps, the better everyone in your family sleeps. Number 8, for older children, have the conversation and communication around what your expectations are. Toddlers and preschoolers are developmentally able to have these conversations. Give them choices like what pajamas to wear or what color the Okay to Wake Up clock is. Be consistent and create a routine. Know that it might take 3 weeks to implement a new routine. Nothing will change until or unless you implement things to change. Number 9, when parents take turns at bedtime, be sure that you're on the same page with your co-parent. Be intentional about sending the same message. You don't have to do things exactly the same way as the other parent, but the overall message and response to the children needs to be the same regardless of who's putting the kids to bed. And number 10, our kids need to feel the range of emotions. And one way we can support our children is to help them understand that hearing the word no is a part of life and that the no's lead to yeses. It's very stressful to have our children be upset at us, but it's important for them to learn how to hear a no so that they don't become boundary violators if they've never heard or been asked to respect a no. Thank you, Lucia, for being on the podcast. Wasn't she incredible? If you haven't yet given the podcast a rating or a review, it would mean so much if you would do that now. The more ratings and reviews a podcast has, the more likely it is to show up in the feed of someone who really needs it. It'll take you maybe 30, 45 seconds. It might not seem like a big deal, but it's a really big deal to me and to the podcast. Thank you for listening. If you know someone who is raising kids at home who could benefit from this episode, would you please consider sharing it with them now? Thank you so much for being here. I recognize there are a lot of things you could be doing and a lot of podcasts you could be listening to, and it just means so much to have you here. Bye for now. Until next time.